This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, although rocking a beautiful Toronto background behind me because I consider Toronto my true home. I love Toronto. And folks, we're going to today on November the 26th, 2024 to be exact, we're going to get crazy with Electric Larry himself. Yes, folks, I have the Ivan Roth on the show today. How do you do, Ivan?
Howdy. How's it going there?
I like your background.
Oh yeah, this is my Los Angeles background.
There you go.
How cold is it there, by the way?
We're getting chilly, but we're not in parka weather yet.
Well, it's a frigid 61 here in Sherman Oaks.
Yeah, but you guys don't know what cold is.
No, we don't. We
I
don't. For
love
us,
hearing
61 is cold.
I love hearing about stories about like I've never been to Los Angeles, but I hear stories from some of my guests that say that they know when somebody's from Canada because they get off the plane in California in their t-shirts and boxers, and people are trying to give them clothes.
It's true.
I hear that a lot. So I find that quite funny, but nonetheless, it's great to have you on here today.
Thank you.
Tommy Kovac of Splat from the Past had connected us, and he gave me your email address and suggested I get hold of you. And I remember I emailed you a few months ago, but I don't know if it went to spam or something, and he gave me a reminder of it. And with me working two cleaning jobs, I get so off kilter and stuff. So I'm glad this happened. And I gave Get Crazy a fresh watch when I get home from work this morning.
Oh,
And
you're the one.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I got a story behind this Blu-ray I'm looking forward to sharing with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Boy, have I got a story behind that. But nonetheless, before we get talking about your films, I've got Night of the Comet here. I've got Night of the Creeps here as well, but my Blu-ray stash, I don't know where I got that stash, but I got three of your films here. But anyway, I'd like to get some of your background and what led you to get into the business. And did you always want to be covered up in something up and out of sight
Well,
or dressed all in black, ominous black in these movies? Did you always want to be conspicuous?
I never even thought about it like that. When I was a kid, I did school shows and all of that. Excuse me. And I could do any accent. I don't know how I ever learned that. It's just something I could do. So I was often cast in character roles or, Irish cops and, that's that sort of thing. Because I could do accents, German accents, whatever it was. Uh, but I never thought I'd end up completely covered like I was in Get Crazy. But when I was in my early 20s, I was 6'2" and I weighed about 125, 126 pounds. I was super skinny. So they cast me as, zombies and drug addicts and uh, drug dealers and aliens. I played an alien in a doll commercial uh, with another fellow who did a lot of costume work. The guy from Pan's Labyrinth. I think his name is Doug
Oh,
Smith,
Doug
is it?
Jones.
Doug Jones, Smith Jones. I was
Yes.
close. Yeah, so Doug Jones and I did a commercial for a doll. I don't remember the doll, but we were both aliens in that. And so that's how I ended up doing that sort of thing. But I never anticipated that that would be the kind of thing I did because I wanted to do Shakespeare and classics, and I produced a play right out of college with that was from the Comédie Française. It hadn't been produced in who knows, maybe 100 years. That was my interest, really comedy and stuff from the distant past. And I ended up a zombie.
I'm a zombie usually when I wake up.
Mhm. You try my coffee, you'll wake up fast.
There you go. There you go. Um, I love Get Crazy. I'm actually today wearing my Ramon shirt in honor of Rock and Roll High School because, of course, the director of Get Crazy is Alan
Alan
Arkish.
Arkish, yeah,
I have a story about Alan Arkish because I've had him on here three times. Three times I've had him on here, and love Alan.
good
But
guy.
boy, did I ever give him a hard time on the third interview. Because you know what he said on the second interview? I said, Alan, because I showing off the Rock and Roll High School Blu-ray, and love Rock and Roll High School. Love that movie. And that was what led me to want to watch Get Crazy. And they could play a great double feature. So I said, well, when I saw Get Crazy, I was like, Alan, when's Get Crazy coming on Blu-ray? And he told me in the second interview, never. It'll never happen. The music rights and this and that, never. It'll never, ever,
Yeah.
ever happen. Well, when I had him on the third time, I said, Alan, what's this? What format is this? You know, this is Blu-ray. This is Get Crazy.
Mm.
Remember what you said? I said, I want you to say it. Say it. And he goes, yeah, you were right, Greg. You were right.
Well, what happens is these companies buy and sell each other, and that's how you end up with MGM owning the catalog from another film studio, and they change hands, and so you never know what's going to happen with a film way down the line, especially 40 years later, who's going to have the rights and what they want to do with it and how they're going to get clearances. And of course, the music becomes less valuable because they don't have to pay the actor so much because the residuals are way down. They go down as the years pass. So, I mean, but it's funny. I still get little tiny checks for those things.
Well, I told Alan, I said, would you please put me in your will? I had fun busting his balls, because I brought it up two or three times. I was like, yeah, Alan, you, I have fun with that, but I really like Get Crazy, and I have fun revisiting it this morning when I got home from work. And but you played Electric Larry, and what an ominous, unique role, because really your character is, I don't want to give any plot twists away, but you really did have an impact on what was going on there. Electric Larry's an interesting character. Now, what is your take on the character upon reading the script? Is there anything that you brought to it that wasn't right there on paper?
Uh, just probably that I was so thin at the time. I was actually on that film originally as an extra, and the
Hmm.
costume designer was the lovely Rosanna Norton, who was a great costume designer. Her mother was a poet. I knew her mother from my days as a poet, uh, but we didn't know that going in to Get Crazy. And she was reviewing a line of extras for their clothes and their look, and I was wearing a pair of green and black checkerboard pants, really, super skinny pants. And I don't know what else, and the makeup and the hair. And she said, could you come with me? And it was just like that. It was like a Hollywood story. And she brought me over to Alan and said, Alan Arkish, and said, how about this guy as Electric Larry? And he gave me the up and down. He said, okay. that was the whole audition because it was not a speaking role. He was just, red eyes, and uh, it was essentially an extra with a bit. But that's how it happened, quite by accident, a fluke. Rosanna, people know her from designing, well, many things, but particularly Tron. She did the costumes for Tron. And let's see,
Yeah,
so I knew all the other people that were on that show because of the casting director was doing the extras was Janet Cunningham, and she knew all the rockers and the punks, and that's how she got started in the casting business. Was they would call her. She ran a club called Cash, and they would call her. Uh, can you give me 10 people that are punk rock or whatever for different shows or movies? And she made a business out of it. So I knew almost all the people that were in that film just from being on the scene with them at that time. It was a pretty exciting time in LA. And that's how it happened. In fact, Rosanna took me to get fitted for the suit. It was specially made because I was so skinny that they took me to a place that's no longer there called Contraneo Tailors. And it was an old guy named, I think it was Don Contraneo. Forgive me if his family's watching. Contraneo. Uh, and it was a room full of seamstresses. They were like 9 or 10 on each side with their sewing machines. And he had me up on the platform at the top. They measure with the soap stick, and he's pulling the fabric in this suit they're making for me. And he says, "Oh, what happened to your ass?" And all these women are cracking up because I was so skinny, and he kept pulling and pulling until it was so tight, and that's why I was like a walking stick in that thing with that hat. And then they made the robot eyes out of it, but it was a memorable time because he was a famous tailor in Hollywood, and to be there with Rosanna was just it was so fun. It was really fun.
I
And we
bet you.
shot it. Well, I'm sorry, what were you
I
gonna say?
was gonna say, I bet you have that costume still hanging up in your closet, right?
I do not. No, I have my costume from Night of the Comet. I have my apron, and I said I was going to auction it this year. I'll get to it eventually. I want to auction the Willie apron for charity and the scarf. But we shot almost all of Get Crazy in what was then the wreck of the Wiltern Theater at Western and Wilshire, which is a beautiful Art Deco green tiled building that was falling apart. The ceilings were caving in. It was had flood damage, and they saved that building. It's now a beautiful theater, working theater, live productions, and that's where all these rockers. We were just scattered all over that theater, hanging out, waiting for our scenes, and we had a ball. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. It went on a long time too.
Yeah, I've had a few people from Get Crazy on. Alan Arkish, of course, has been on here 3 times. I was very fortunate that I had Dick Miller on here 5 months before he passed away. Um, that was a luck for me because I didn't even have him on my list to reach out to, but I just kind of noticed he was doing the conventions a lot. And I was like, I wonder, would he do my show? And I reached out, and his wife, who was also in The Graduate, had responded. And I ended up having Dick Miller on, and I'm glad I did because 5 months later he was gone. And
Wow.
I had a wonderful chat with him and his wife, and um, so I had him on. He's seen briefly, of course, with his Gremlin's wife. Watering lawn on here, and I've had Miles Chapman on here as well. Um, so he's been on here as well, Miles Chapman. So I've had a few people from Get Crazy on here, so I believe you're my fourth. But I really enjoy the movie, have a lot of fun with it, and it feels like a concert going on. And of course, with Alan Arkish in Rock and Roll High School, he's ripping tickets and let's the mouse in. Let's the mouse into the concert, you know? And gives the mouse headphones or whatever to and in this one here, of course, you got a human-sized joint going there. Oh, I love that, you know, and the joke involving Lou Reed was pretty funny too, you know. So, but I gotta say, the performance that really stood out to me in this movie, and I've always been a fan of his, was Malcolm McDowell as Reggie Wanker.
Yeah, yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
I ran into Ed Begley Jr. Not too long ago at the at one of the farmers markets here. You know, he's a big proponent of public transportation, and he
Hmm.
was just sitting there in a booth at the farmers market, you know, promoting ridership on LA's, you know, not well used public transportation. And I chatted with him briefly that we had worked together on Get Crazy. He was kind of amused by that. Nice fellow, really good guy.
Did he have his two buddies with him that agreed with him?
No, no.
Oh, he was great in the movie, you know, and um, yeah, like Rock and Roll High School, where they had the Ramones concert. Uh, this one, of course, he like Alan was really good at bringing in a lot of people to do these crowd scenes, you know, and he brought a lot of the same people in, like Paul Bartel and Mary Warrenov, of course, you know,
Yeah.
and of course
Mary
Mary
was
was a
also in Night of the
Night
Comet,
of the
right?
Comets, yeah.
And she was
Eh,
a friend of our mutual friend, Janet Cunningham.
yeah.
So I knew Mary way back in the day. Mrs.
Mary, I think
Paco.
yeah, I hear she's extremely private, you know, because you don't see her at the conventions or anything, you know. I hear
Mhm.
she's into painting and stuff now.
And she's always been a painter. She
Hmm.
was a painter then. Yeah, she's a very good painter. And yeah, she and Janet lived in the same building way back when.
Yeah, always like I know a lot of people would love to see her come out to the conventions, but I heard she's extremely private. I tried to get her
Yeah.
on here, but I've had no luck at finding her. And
She's lovely. She's a lovely
yeah,
person.
yeah,
As I remember her, I haven't seen her in many, many years, but I always had fondness for her.
yeah. I remember her as Miss Togar in Rock and Roll High School. Yeah, she is awesome. But what is your this is a broad question, but what is your fondest memory of being on set for Get Crazy?
Mm. Well, I thought it was really cool that we were in the Wiltern Theater and shooting it there because uh, we thought it was, well, I thought, I should say, I thought it was the last days of the Wiltern Theater, that it was, you know, going to be under the wrecking ball after that shoot. It was in such bad shape. I mean, it's amazing that they restored that. So, you know, now it's beautiful, back to its Art Deco glory. And I don't know if you can see, I collect Art Deco and mid-century, but it's it's neat to be a part of the history of that place. You know, I guess you wanted to hear some a story about some showbiz person or something, but that's really when I drive past it, which is not frequently, so way on the other side of town. I just have a great fondness for that building, and I'm so glad that they saved it. I
Hmm.
was part of the Los Angeles Conservancy for a number of years, and that's a thrill that that building is still there. Because in LA, it's really hard to save a building. I probably it made the news about them wanting to tear down Marilyn Monroe's house, and I think that they finally got. Uh, I think there's a hold on it or something. I don't know where it is exactly right now, but there's just not a lot of respect for history in today's news. They're going to tear down one of the landmark Googie coffee shops called Norm's on La Cienega. It's one of the last examples of Googie in that area. But that's the way it goes here. It's really hard to save a building. The properties are so valuable. Real estate is just so expensive. But anyway, that's the funnest that I have that we shot it there at the Wiltern.
Do you have any memories or interactions with Malcolm McDowell?
No, I did not shoot at any time with him. He was not, we had different schedules, you
I had got such a kick out of
know.
him talking to his penis in the bathroom. Oh my, I thought he was so funny in that movie, you know. Um, uh, but nonetheless, what were your memories working with Alan Arkish as a director?
Well, it was all really sort of chaotic as I remember it, because the place was enormous. There were all these punks running around. Uh, Everybody knew each other. Excuse me. We were all happy to be getting a hot meal in those days. Uh, it was well. All I remember is they kept it fun. We all had a lot of fun on the set. Most sets are fun, but there were, I don't remember there being any divas or attitudes or anything like that. It was like a big party. And that's the energy they wanted to have in the film. So, yeah, it's a long time ago, but I just remember what great fun it was, being with all our peers and the punks and the people we were hanging out with and performing with. I remember, couple of girls I was very close to were Laurie Eastside and Sherry Foose. Um, uh, they were in the film, and the girl bands that were in the film. Uh, we had a ball. It was just a fun time. It was a different time. It was a very different time. We shot that in 81, I think.
Mhm.
81. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, and it came out, of course, in '83. I would have been 11 when that came out. I didn't see it at age 11, mind you,
I
but
should hope not.
but nonetheless, you mentioned Laurie Eastside. She's another one I tried to get on the show here, but just haven't had success. Loved her in the film, but we did talk briefly before we started recording about Lee Ving, who I did see at Chiller, and
Mhm.
of course he played Piggy.
Well, Lee was also a friend of Rosanna's, and Rosanna and I struck up a friendship. She was a great hostess at that time. So she had this big house in Venice, and she used to open up her house and make probably the best fried chicken you ever ate in your life. And I used to see Lee there, and just that was a great place where everybody used to hang out, have fun. Um, it's not like that anymore in Hollywood. Nobody wants anybody to know where they live, and they're afraid of stalkers. It's a very different time. But back in the day, uh, that was she was the hostess with the mostest, um, back then.
Yeah, Lee was really funny in the movie, very wild. He's calmed down since then. He wasn't quite as wild at Chiller, you know.
Well, he's not 25 anymore.
Are you sure? I
Yeah,
would
I'm
have
sure.
sworn that he's 25.
None of us are.
But nevertheless, I loved Get Crazy. I wish it had done better at the box office, but I'm glad that it's gained a cult following and it's been restored, and that I was able to say to Alan Arkush, yeah, this is coming on Blu-ray.
Hey,
Yeah,
you got
you
it.
said, oh boy, did I ever give him a hard time about that. But God bless Alan, that he was able to get that out and be able to have it on Blu-ray. It looks great, and of course, then you were in Night of the Comets, and I've got Blu-ray of that here as well.
Oh, you're the one. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I've had Catherine Mary Stewart on here, and I've had Kelly Maroney on here. Are you saying you did a convention with them? I tell you, if I was stuck between them at a convention, I would be sweating bullets.
Oh, they're lovely. They're both so sweet. I mean, we 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 haven't seen each other for, well, I saw Catherine uh just what was it, about three no, it was about four months ago. They had the 40th anniversary of The Last Starfighter screening in North Hollywood, and she invited me to that. And I went to school with Lance.
hmm
I showed up, and it's been a long, I haven't seen Lance since that time back at UCLA. And then just what must have been about a year and a half, 2 years ago, uh, Catherine and Kelly and I had lunch. We went for a Thai lunch, and it got posted on TMZ, or not TMZ. They have another, um, oh, what's it called? The offshoot of TMZ, uh, two Fab. They posted it on two Fab reunions, the three of us having lunch, which was great fun.
Okay.
They had a screening at Vidiot's here in Los Angeles, and Kelly dragged me along to that, and we appeared before the film to have a little chat with the audience, which was great fun. That's over here in Eagle Rock. They couldn't have been nicer. So we keep in touch. We text each other. They're uh, they're really both lovely, and we share this interconnected fate, having crossed paths with this movie that became a cult favorite. It's the strangest thing, but it's very nice at this late stage of life to have this recognition for something we never thought we'd hear about at the 40 years later. It's amazing, just amazing.
I've had Catherine Mary Stewart on here a couple times, and the second time, because I used to do these at the station on the phone, but when the pandemic happened, one of my guests out of Los Angeles had told me about Zoom, so I'm able to do these on Zoom. And the second time I had Catherine Mary Stewart on was on Zoom, and I remember I had an apple with me because she was in the movie The Apple.
Oh, the apple, right?
I said, today I'm feeling like having an apple, and just see her face react to that. Yeah. Yeah, Catherine is a lot of fun.
Yeah, they
Um,
both have a great sense of humor, and they're uh, they're real easy to be around.
well, I was involved in a film called Victim No More, directed by Bobby Heckman, whom she's very close to. So and Bobby has done a few shows with her, but Kelly, my story about Kelly, I had her on here in 2017. And I love Night of the Comet, um, but I'm also a huge, huge, huge lover of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which she's in. And of course, she's in Chopping Mall. Now, I actually got a signed copy of Chopping Mall because it was coming out on Blu-ray, and she was doing some kind of deal on Facebook where you could get signed copies. And uh, anyway, I got a picture of her with my signed copy of Chopping Mall. And I also ordered some pictures from her on her webpage where she signed some photos. I never got to meet her or Catherine yet. Love to. But I know that Kelly married well because her husband is very, very nice to me, any interactions. But I remember when I had Kelly on, I had her do the cheerleader rant from Fast Times at Ridgemont High because I just loved watching, listen to her squawk and screech that chant out. But yeah, of course she's a cheerleader again in Night of the Comet, so
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah. Uh, I know you've talked about working with them on working with them at conventions, and I know you feel very highly about them, but talk about working with them on set of Night of the Comet.
Well, we were talking about that recently, and when we shot it, I think the first part of what we shot was I think we did it in sequence. So the first thing we did was at the mall. Uh, and everybody was in close quarters, but I didn't want to be real chummy because they were supposed to be afraid. So sometimes you take it off the set. You want to, keep your distance so that they can keep whatever they're working on and, to be fearful or what have you. And if you get too friendly, it's like you don't want to interfere with their work. So I kind of kept my distance, and I had my own problems because when we started shooting this, I've told the story before, we started shooting it, it was in this cavernous Bullock's department store, and they couldn't hear because the character was supposed to whisper. And I had to change the character around at the last minute to give him this big booming voice. So I was sequestered off in this other part of the store to try and work on this voice before the next take. It was literally between takes. So I didn't mix with them too much. In fact, we didn't get to know each other much at all. And then we crossed paths, of course, years later with the film becoming a cult hit. But I really didn't get a chance to know them well until we started to do these retros. We did the Zeitgeist Film Festival, which was lovely, and down in Huntington Beach, and then we were together in Chicago, all three of us, for what's that called? A Fright Fest or Fear Fest? Help me. Do you know which one I mean?
I don't know,
Can't
but
think of the name of it. Uh, but that was great fun. I wish I could recall the name of it. Um, and I told them recently, that's why I wasn't chummy because and then but in the next scene we shot at a warehouse down in downtown LA somewhere. It was actually a vegetable warehouse of all things, and I was already in zombified makeup. That was a 4 hour deal, so I didn't see them while I was getting made up, uh, and I wanted that to be a shocker for them. I didn't want them to see it before it was, on the take, or we were on set, so that they could use whatever they were working on to, the actual element of surprise in with it. They certainly didn't need any help. They're all really great. I mean, they're great actresses, both of them, really good. And they were so good in that. But it was a kick to film that. And we had again, it was an all-night shoot. Both of them were night shoots. So it was wild being in this freezing cold warehouse, and we shot it in just, we time was money on that one. We did it. It was like take, cut, print, that kind of thing, really quick. But both of them were super ready, super prepared, and gave great performances. It just was one of those things where it just clicked. The whole thing just clicked, and it clicked with the fans too. That's the important part. It clicked with the fans, and they still like it, even the new fans. It's picked up two new generations of fans in these 40 years, maybe three. It's incredible. Um, that's the really fun part is we're still here to see that, which I like.
I can imagine it's probably a hoot being at a convention around them.
Well, it's not hard to take these conventions. I mean, people come up to you and say the nicest things, and they give you money, and they say more nice things, and they're lovely. And a lot of them you'd never think that they were these gentle creatures because they're tattooed and pierced, and people are like, oh, oh, they're scared of, they're wearing monster makeup and all this stuff, and they're the nicest, sweetest people that you ever want to meet. So it's not hard to take those conventions. Let me tell you, that's what I call a sweet gig.
Yeah, of course you did Night of the Comet and Night of the Creeps. You're doing an awful lot of stuff at night.
Yeah, it was ironic that both of those films were almost back to back. Um, Night of the Comet was supposed to be called Teenage Comet Zombies, which was a great title, but somehow the studio didn't go for that, and it got
Oh
to be Night of the
wow.
Comet. But the script that I got, the title was Teenage Comet Zombies,
Oh wow, they should have
and
kept
we
with that.
I
Yeah.
know, isn't that a great title? That's Tom Eberhardt's title, Teenage Comet Zombies. She says it in the radio station. Kelly says, "Hey, hello out there, all you Teenage Comet Zombies," when she's playing disc jockey. Uh, that was the title of the film.
Hmm.
So, but anyway, Night of the Creeps came after that. Once you've done that kind of makeup work, the makeup people request you. They'll read a script and say, "Oh, Ivan Roth could do that because I was skinny and I could do the makeup." So the makeup is, first of all, it's improved. In those days, it took a lot longer. It's the techniques have improved, the materials that they use are, super fast now. But if you could be patient and sit there with straws in your nose and, not get claustrophobic because, you had to get a full face mask at one point, they wanted to work with you. And I like to think of myself as something of a humorist, so I like to crack jokes, and the makeup people don't mind that at 4 o'clock in the morning either. Somebody who's not going to come in and hate having this stuff applied to their face. So I did get referred to Night of the Creeps by one of the makeup people. I think it was William that did it. That's how I ended up on a zombie on that too. Actually, I was the axe wielding zombie mental patient in that one. Back from the grave. I forget how it's billed. It's billed as that in the credits.
It's funny. I just met Suzanne Snyder at Frightmare in the Falls. Of course, she seemed briefly answering the door when the the boyfriends show up, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Your
Um,
dates here, by the way, they're dead. What was the tagline? Your
yes,
date, good news, your dates are here. Bad news, they're dead. Was that what the
yep,
tagline was?
yep. Tom Atkins, yep, yep. I think Tom Atkins just turned 39 recently too. Uh, but nevertheless, I met her at Frightmare in the Falls recently. She still looks lovely. Um, she was doing a little Killer Clowns reunion there. But uh, yeah, Night of the Creeps was a lot of fun playing off that old 50s sci-fi. Uh,
Hmm.
yep. So have fun with that. You also had, and of course, I'm trying to think here. Nope, I'm thinking of Halloween 3. I'm thinking Stacey Nelkin because she was in Get Crazy, but she worked with Tom Atkins in Halloween 3, so I get that mixed up here. You also did 315, The Moment of Truth, where you're listed as playing a freak. You're like, you know, you are you getting typecast?
Well, the freak was anybody who was a punk was a freak in those days. That was, MTV was just getting started, and half of America didn't look like that yet. They only looked like that in LA. It's like everything moved east.
Hmm.
But that was why it was freak. It was just a guy in a long coat with some hair or something like that. It was nothing. I mean, I think I had three lines in that film. It was nothing special. It really wasn't. When they say freak, it wasn't a monster.
Yeah, Deborah Foreman in that. Yeah. And Hollywood Zap.
Oh yeah, that's nobody needs to run out and see that.
Why not?
It's sort of campy and horrible. The director fancied himself as the next John Waters, and he was not. But
John
it's
Waters is a one of a kind.
yeah. So I had to play it, right down the line. But I don't have much to say about that film.
Well, you got to work with director William Pruitt um, with Blue Monkey, and
Yeah, that's the one I was telling you we shot in the tunnels of a mental hospital in Toronto.
mhm.
Abandoned mental hospital was the scariest set you ever had to find. We had to go through the tunnels with flashlights to get to the set. It was 2 degrees in February in Toronto. But again, we had great fun. The comic actor Don Lake was on that.
Oh
It
my
was
goodness, I'm looking at him right now. I know exactly
and
who. Yeah, I
yeah,
recognize him.
he was hilarious. And the girl who played the nurse, can't think of her name, but they were
Uh,
just lovely,
Gwyneth
really nice.
Walsh.
Gwyneth, yes, they were just so nice. But Don was especially hilarious, a great ad libber. And I was in fly costume. It was a whole big apparatus that I wore. I had to have part of it on wheels when I walked. It was heavy. Uh, and he would make just all kind of wisecracks all the time about me being this insect. It was quite amusing. We had a good time on that, except that it was freezing cold, just absolutely freezing cold. And then, as I told you, the heat went out of the hotel in February in Toronto. That was fun. Still, we had fun.
I love Toronto. I can't say that enough.
Yeah, we hung out there, and the makeup guy was a wonderful character named Todd Masters, who
Hmm.
I always called him Todd AO, and he ended up starting his own makeup company in North Hollywood, and he was a lot of fun. We had great times going out to eat on the strip there was called Spadina. You know where Spadina is, don't you? It was like
Oh, you know
their
what?
Melrose
Yes.
at the time. It was their Melrose Avenue. So we went clubbing and eating there. Despite the cold, we had a good time.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Well, William Pruitt had directed another one of my guests who I've met in Toronto, Leslie Donaldson, in a funeral home.
Mm.
So, uh, yeah, so she's done a lot of work in Canada, and he's quite a staple there. So,
Yeah. My
yeah,
work was mostly technical, like run, move fast, scoot by. That was the direction. I don't even know. Bill was on that, but it was, and they had me and a dummy of the insect. So you can't tell which one is which at a certain point, but because they had to use the dummy insect for flying sequences and that sort of thing. They didn't want to have me hanging off some rafter like they did in the film. Not that I would have done it, but but that was quite a production.
Now I gotta bring up Dead Heat because not too long ago lost Treat Williams, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a story about Treat Williams.
Well, share your story about Treat Williams because I think he went way
Okay,
too young.
yeah. Well,
Yep.
it was a motorcycle accident, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah, I believe so. It was a shocker to everybody because I've seen him in so many movies.
Well, I wasn't as thrilled to be working with him as I was to be working with Key Luke, the Asian actor Key Luke, who I knew from watching, as I did in those days as a child in Philadelphia. I watched The Late Show or The Million Dollar Movie, and I used to watch all the old Warner Oland and
And
Sidney
he was in
Toler,
Gremlins.
Charlie Chan movies from the 30s, and he played number one son, Key Luke. And I was, as I told you, I'm a crossword puzzle fanatic, so I was doing crosswords with Key Luke next to me in a director's chair. I mean, talk about, thinking, oh, I'm going to be in showbiz. That was it for me. I mean, here I am working with a legend, Key Luke,
Hmm.
and that was thrilling. In fact, I remember there was a clue, Eisenhower's running mate, and it was Nixon, of course, but he knew it. He knew it. Uh, he was so nice. He was so thrilled that somebody as young as I was at that time, I was maybe, well, I don't know what year that was, but I was in my early 20s, and he was thrilled that I knew him from the Charlie Chan movies. Just, I'm sure he was used to it, and he was just charming, just charming. That was a thrill for me. A similar thrill was working on a movie that was called Dead something, or I forget what it was called. It was a TV movie, and the assistant director came up to me and he says, "Oh, are you playing the driver?" Hmm. I said, "Yeah," and I looked at him and I said, "You're Dick Powell's son." I mean, it was the actual Dick Powell Jr. He had the same face as Dick Powell from 42nd Street and all those old Warner Brothers musicals, and his mother was June Allison. And he couldn't believe that this punk rocker recognized his face as his father's face. That's the kind of thrilling stories I love about, working in showbiz when crossing paths with legends and near legends. But he was my best friend from then on. He just passed a couple of years ago, Dick Powell Jr. That was a thrill. But back to Trent, um, back
Treat
to
Williams.
Treat
Yeah.
Williams, sorry. So I was working with Treat Williams and was it Darren McGavin?
Yeah.
Darren McGavin, yeah. I always mix him up with another actor. Uh, but yeah, Darren McGavin. Uh, and I was in full zombie makeup, and they had to usher me out or into the back with the doors open of an ambulance. And Treat was inside the ambulance, and he was gonna he was laying back with his head near the driver's seat. And he was gonna kick me as a zombie out of the ambulance. And I'm not a stunt man. And the stunt people were not happy about this. And they wanted an actual stunt man, but the stunt man would have had to undergone 4 hours of makeup or 5 hours of makeup to look like the zombie. And they just didn't have anybody that was 6'2" on the set. I said, look, I can do it. He's not going to really kick me. He's just going to, push me. And stunt people were not happy about it. And I didn't have enough padding on my chest. I should have had, pads. It's like they put their hands up, the stunt guys. I love stuntmen, but they were right. They were right. I shouldn't have done that stunt. And Treat, when they it's action, and he kicked me in the chest. I mean, I didn't know he was going to come with his foot like that. The timing was off. We didn't have a lot of rehearsal, and I'm behind all this makeup on top of it. And I cracked a rib.
Oh.
right there, right there. And it still hurts to this day because, ribs, they don't really get, there's nothing they can do. You can't, they used to wrap you and they don't do that anymore or they didn't do that because it caused pneumonia. So, and I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to make any trouble. I was, just starting out and, you don't want to make trouble on a set. And the stunt people were already unhappy and I wasn't sure what happened to me. But to this day, when it's cold or that still hurts right there. I know the
Oh,
exact spot. So I have a souvenir from Treat Williams where
he left his mark on you, so to speak.
he kicked me in the ribs.
Yeah.
Uh, but for for that bit, which is like a split second in it's not terribly painful, but it's a memento of my acting career, such as it was.
And of course, that film had Joe Pescob in it, and you also had Vincent Price.
Briefly, yes, he was in that briefly, wasn't he? Yeah, I
Hmm.
didn't work with him, but I did wear his shoes once. And you say, how the hell did that happen? I was in a TV commercial. It was for Transamerica Insurance. And they were doing that's the pyramid building in San Francisco. Excuse me. And Vincent Price I went in for the audition as it was supposed to be Egyptian slave. So I
Hmm.
wore a dhoti. I made a white sheet. I tore it up and I just wore it, because you're supposed to be a skinny slave. So I went, and all the other guys were in jeans, and so they gave me the role not as the slave but as the pharaoh. The director of the commercial was so taken with the fact that I put on a dhoti for the audition that he made me the pharaoh. So I got all this makeup and a big headpiece, and that like that, and silvery costume, and the shoes were rented from Western Costume and turned over the tag that was on it. Vincent Price wore them in one of the Bible epics.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, so I was wearing Vincent Price's shoes as the Pharaoh. Isn't that nutty? Talk about the weird crisscross. And then we crossed paths on that film, but I've walked in Vincent Price's shoes.
There you go. Literally. I haven't
Yeah.
seen this film, but you got Ricochet on here, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, Denzel
Oh,
Washington. I mean,
yeah.
he may be up for an Oscar again this year.
Yeah, he played a district attorney in that who was drugged and left outside of City Hall. And I was a maintenance man who discovered him. He was missing, and then thought he was a sleeping homeless person there, and maintenance man comes by and I wake him up. That was a bit, it was like a 3 or 4 lines. That's it.
Okay. Well, according to I'm going by your IMDb here. The last credit you have was Bribe Me in 1994. What have you been doing since then? Like what have you been occupying your time with?
Well, I decided that I was not having fun after a while in the business. No, you have to be careful if you get typecast and they think, oh, we'll get a zombie, you can play a zombie, you can play a drug dealer, what have you. But you also work maybe once or twice a year, maybe 3 times a year if you're lucky, unless you're a superstar and you go back and forth one film to another back to back. Uh, it's when it stopped being fun, I decided I would do something else. But I always worked as well because I had other skills. I was an administrator. I worked for the Writers Guild right out of college. I worked for them for 5 years and managed their movie theater and met all kind of celebrities there. I met Natalie Wood, spent an hour in my office in
Oh,
that theater in
wow.
Bikini. Milton Berle and Henny Youngman and Selma Diamond. Uh, Maury Amsterdam used to hang out in the office because they get bored or walk out on a film. They'd sit in my office and smoke. Uh, so anyway, I worked 5 years with the WGA, and then I went to work behind the scenes. I was an assistant to the screenwriter Stephen D'Souza, and then I worked at the American Film Institute briefly. I worked on the Steven Spielberg tribute. I was there about a year, and then I worked for the children's author Maurice Sendak in Connecticut for about 2 years as his assistant through Sony Retail Entertainment, which was building up this site in San Francisco based on his work. And then in the Japanese crash of 97, I guess that was, they wiped out that whole division. So I came back to Los Angeles and I worked in the animation business in the Philippines for a couple of years, going back and forth to Manila for a company called Imaginasia that was way ahead of its time. They almost sold a great big cartoon that would have been super famous based on the Ramayana. Uh, but the guy that was running it at the time wanted too much and they didn't sell it. He wanted the toys and everything, and he had to share that stuff with who was going to put it on TV. He didn't quite understand the business. He was an attorney, not a TV guy. Begged him, sell it, make money on the next one, but get one on the air. The guy from Ninja Turtles, Fred Wolf, I think it was,
Hmm.
put that on the air. Anyway, it never happened. So I went back and forth to the Philippines, and then I ended up working for the billionairess Linda Resnick, who's still a friend, and I did a couple of books with her as an editor. And I was an English major, so I'm pretty good with words. And we did a couple of books together. She wrote Rubies in the Orchard, and that was a great gig. She's still a friend. Uh, and then I got a gig working for TMZ. And when TMZ was funny, I should say, when TMZ was funny. Uh, and so we helped get that to be a TV show. And then I ended up transferring through that company was Telepictures. I'm working on Extra, Ellen, Tyra. I worked on Ellen's website for almost 15 years. Everything that came out on the web that was from Ellen passed by my eyes first as editor. So make sure there's no mistakes and it's grammatically correct and it sounds like Ellen and nothing dangerous is being said. So, um, and I was with Telepictures 15, almost 16 years. And then I retired 3 years ago, almost 3.5 years ago. So now I'm retired. And
Until Alan Arkish needs you at another concert.
oh, I would love that. That would be great fun. That would be great fun. I think, sometimes I think maybe it would be fun to go back and do something in showbiz, but not not it would have to be thrown at me. You know what I mean? It would have to land on my door somehow. I don't feel motivated to go to auditions or, that sort of thing. But it was something I did for 10 years. Really, it was a 10-year period. And then I completely changed careers and went behind the scenes. Um, I don't have any regrets because, listen, if something stops being fun, you shouldn't be doing it, whatever it
Hmm.
is. You should be enjoying it. And I didn't, the business was very different then. It was in the 80s, there was cocaine everywhere. It was crazy. I wasn't a drug addict, so I didn't I didn't like that. It was just a nutty business that I didn't like. So I thought to myself, what if you don't like it, why are you doing this? So I made the tough choice to just use my other talents, and I have no regrets. But now it's kind of fun that 40 years later, those 10 years are still, still here I am talking to you about that.
we got to get you another project with Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney.
Well, hopefully they'll do. There's been talk for years about a remake of Night of the Comet or a redo, and we should all have cameos in it. It just, I mean, how could they do it without us having cameos? I mean, especially, the girls and the zombies. I would have to play a part of like a teacher or something to just be totally ridiculous. I think that would be great fun. But that's again something they've talked about 30 some odd years. It hasn't happened.
Do we really want them to remake it though?
Say that again?
Do we really want them to remake it though?
To remake it?
Yeah,
Uh, sometimes those things are good. It can happen. It's not going to be like the first one. First of all, the whole
no.
technology has changed. It would be completely different. So it might be fun. It might be fun. I don't know.
Okay. Sometimes remakes can work,
Hmm.
but so many times they don't, you start losing faith.
Yeah,
But
it
I
would
can
have to
think of a
it
few
would have to be
occasions where
really
it
good.
did.
It
Yeah,
would have to be really good. But if they got, almost everybody's still around from the original film. Only what's his name? The father of he plays the scientist that is turns into a zombie. Do you know who I mean?
let me look him
Greg?
up because
No, is it Greg? No, he has a G name. Help me.
just a second. I'm gonna bring that up here because
His
even
his
even even
his
me, I'm
his
losing
daughter's
it
an
here.
actress.
Oh, Jeffrey Lewis.
Jeffrey Lewis with a G.
We
Jeffrey
lost
Lewis.
him not too long ago
Yeah,
too.
his daughter Jennifer Lewis. He's not around, but almost everybody else is still around, uh, including our beloved writer director Tom Eberhardt, which would be a great cameo to have Tom in it too. That would be great fun. We all saw each other at that Zeitgeist Film Festival, and the cinematographer was there. It was fun. So in that regard, it would be if they could do it like that, because for the fans, they'd go bananas to see all of us, in the film again.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, here's a question I ask everybody who comes on the show. What's the most unique thing you've ever been asked to sign?
To sign,
Yeah,
an autograph?
yeah. Now, Catherine Mary Stewart said she signed somebody's butt cheek once.
Oh no. Nothing like that. Um, I remember somebody brought in a just a whole array of stuff. I mean, the poster, the Blu-ray, the video, that they had the whole gamut of everything to do with Night of the Comet. And because I hadn't done a show before, I was the only one whose autograph they didn't have. So it just shocked me that he had everything. He had European posters and, different video releases from different countries and so on. And he had me sign all of those
You
things.
must have made a killing off of
No,
him.
I couldn't charge him like that. I couldn't do. I mean, I didn't make him pay for all those things. It was just too silly. But uh, that was kind of neat that he was a super fan who had everything. That's just wows you. But I've never been asked to sign a. I signed somebody's cast once, a cast. That's not unusual, but um, I did sign. One time somebody stopped me in the mall here in LA, and they thought I was Christopher Walken. So I didn't want to disappoint them, so I signed my name as Christopher Walken. Hmm.
You mentioned being in that office, Natalie Wood.
Hmm.
Did you have any interactions with her? Like, what was
Oh
she
yeah.
like?
Well, they were having the cast and crew screening of her final film. It was uh, not Tempest, but something about the weather, like tornado. What was it called? Do you remember her
Was
last
it,
movie?
um,
Anyway,
was it
the whole
Brain Scan or something?
that's it, Brainstorm.
Brainstorm, that's
Brainstorm.
right.
So she didn't like to watch herself on screen, I don't think. And the movie was going, and I closed the doors to the theater, and my office was right off the front part there, the former ticket booth. It was a private theater. And she pushed the door open and said, "Do you mind if I wait in here?" It's Natalie freaking Wood. What am I going to say? I'm sorry, no. Could you wait in the bathroom? So Natalie Wood came in and sat with me for the duration of the screening, which was about 90 minutes at that time, 90 minutes or so. First of all, she was the most gorgeous creature I've ever seen in my life. She looked otherworldly. Her photos didn't do her justice. She was so beautiful. She had black eyes. Her eyes were so dark and so beautiful, and the way they reflected light. I remember looking at her eyes, and it was just like a dot in the brown, the dark chocolatey brown that her eyes were. She was stunning and lovely, sweet, quiet, charming. And tell you what we talked about, I don't remember because I was probably like Jackie Gleason in The Honeymooners, which nobody has a reference to, but he was like, I couldn't believe it was sitting there with Natalie Wood, talk about legends. Um, but my my most regular visitor in that office was Selma Diamond from the TV show Night Court. Hmm.
Oh, I
And
love Night Court.
yeah, she was the one with the voice like that. She was,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And then she passed away, lung cancer, but she was a chain smoker and she used to come into my office and smoke. Walked out on it. I hated it, and she'd smoke in my office and talk to me, ask me about my career because she knew I was an actor. And then she was in My Favorite Year as the costumer with Peter O'Toole.
Yeah.
And she had a couple of great lines in that. She stole every scene she was in. But she was so funny. She was also a writer on Your Show of Shows, which is why they cast her in My Favorite Year, because it was based on the Sid Caesar Your Show of Shows. She was one of the original female writers, comedy writers. And so that was kind of fun, having her come in there all the time and visit. Trying to think who else in those years. I mean, it was a lot of people because we had a lot of private screenings. And the Writers Guild had a policy that once the film started, we were not allowed to open the doors. There was no late seating. Nobody could come in, in the middle of the film and sit down, or even 5 minutes into it, not even during the credits. They were serious. It said on the doors, no exceptions. And I remember the head of 20th Century Fox who had provided the film. It was the son of the oil man, Marvin Davis. His son, John Davis, came late, and I couldn't let him in. I'll have your job. He was one of those guys. But the Writers Guild stood behind me and said, that's his job. He's not supposed to let anybody in, whether it's the president of the company or whatever. But man, that guy was pissed. I still remember it to this day. Because it was scary. Uh, there were some old timers that used to come in there. First of all, the guard at the theater was a guy named Stan Sarniski, who had been a guard at MGM. So he had stories about drinking with Clark Gable and hanging out with Spencer Tracy and all these old MGM stars. He had the stories, man. And then old timers used to come in. Do you know who Marie Windsor is? She was a star of, you'll see her in a lot of film noir. She was a member of like all these little film screening groups, like the Television Academy. They would use our theater for their screenings. Now they since then they built their own building, but Marie Windsor was a frequent visitor, and I knew her from watching old noirs on TV when I was a kid. Uh, she was again lovely. The film society group for the Writers Guild consisted of Ray Bradbury, the writer Hal Cantor, Alan Rifkin, who wrote Our Dancing Daughters for Joan Crawford in 1930, 29, and was one of the early talkies. He was my office mate at the Guild. He was
Wow.
87. So I used to set up those lunches with those guys. They would meet and decide which films they would screen. I mean, hanging with Ray Bradbury and those kind of people. I mean, it's just amazing that happened. I mean, I feel a little bit Zeligish for if you've seen Woody Allen's Zelig, where he crosses paths in history with all these crazy people.
Hmm.
That's what it's like for me. I mean, I sometimes am amazed at the paths I've crossed, but that was a different time. So those old timers were still around. All those old writers like Lenore Coffey and names you see on old movies, they they were there. They were still around. Mel Shavelson was a member of the Guild at that time. He was president of the Guild, I think, at that time. Um, it was cool. It was cool.
I've had Jeffrey Mark on here a few times. He was in my favorite year in a scene or two, and he's come on here and done tributes to various performers who passed away, and one of them was Milton Berle, who you had mentioned.
Yeah.
Talk about
He used to
interacting with
come to the
him.
theater with his brother Jack.
Yeah,
But you were going to
yeah.
say
I heard he was quite the character.
he was funny. He was always on. I mean, he was Milton Berle and he knew it. He always had the big cigar at the front door. We had to tell him you can't smoke in here. You could smoke in the office, but he couldn't come into the theater with the cigarette. Uh, yeah, a lot of the old comics. There were old MGM players that used to come in, and Stan knew all of them. I can't remember their names. It was quiet. There were just he knew all the old timers that would come in. Some people I didn't know, but he knew them from MGM
You've
back in
got
the day.
Doggy there.
Yeah, that's Paco. I rescued this little dog about 5 months ago. That's
Mm-hmm.
Paco. You say hello, Paco. He's
Yeah,
he's such a good
I've got
boy.
a kitty here.
Do you? Well,
Yeah.
don't hold him up because I'm allergic to cats. I'll start sneezing.
Yeah, I love my kitties a rescue as well. So, yeah,
Yeah, I got him at Pause for Hope, FUR, Pause for Hope. Plug the rescue, and he's a good doggy.
it kind of looks like the dog that Miles Chapman punted at the beginning of Get
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, it does. Yeah.
Holy cow, that was a funny joke. Dog was okay though,
It
but just
probably couldn't even shoot that today.
probably not. Oh, gee, the censorship crap going on today. I wish
Mhm.
they'd stop. It's not doing movies any favors. Yeah,
Well, comedy keeps changing. Um, it's just that's the nature of the beast.
yeah. Well, who needs comedy if you're hanging out with Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney? That's comedy all in itself.
They're fun. We have fun when we hang out together.
Yeah.
It's neat.
Well, I'll keep you posted if I hear of anybody that you can connect with manager wise. Um, because it'd
Are you
be
gonna
great.
you're gonna put me back in show business? Is that what you're up
Sure,
to?
why not? I was thinking about the conventions, but why not? Why not?
Okay.
We could
All
have
right.
the future adventures of Electric Larry.
Oh, well, on that note.
You have anything else? And you have any charities or anything like that you want to plug and promote on here or website?
I just did. Pause for hope. That's where I got
Pause for
that's where
hope.
I PAWSFURHOPE. and they're based in Burbank, and that's where I got this little beast. I'm his
Yeah.
service human. I'm letting his hair grow for his winter coat so he won't be cold. But he's a
Yeah.
good dog. He's a good little doggy. He's trained and he's 22 months, 22, 23 months, something like that. So
There
he's
you
still a
go.
puppy. Yeah. And I haven't had a dog since I was a little kid, so this is a great change for me.
Well, you know what? They say you're either a dog person or a cat person. My parents were dog people. They had an
Mhm.
Australian Shepherd. They loved that dog. I got my cat. My cat was a rescue that my nephew had, and then he went to my parents. And when they were getting like, my dad's passed away now, but when they were terminally ill, Dad left me Skittles, my cat. So uh,
My dad gave away my dog. So it's the
yeah.
first dog I've had since I was a kid. It's been great for me. He helped me get my blood pressure down and lose weight.
Hmm.
Good doggy. Good dog. Good
Does your
doggy.
dog take you for walks?
5 times a day. 5 times a day. He's really great.
Does your dog wake you up in the morning? My cat has a thing when see, I have a CPAP machine,
Mhm.
and my cat will jump up on my bed, and I will always feel the thud regardless how deep asleep I am. I feel the thud on the bed. Cat will get up on top of me, walk up my chest area, look me right in the face, and
Mm.
start rubbing against my CPAP mask.
This one likes to snuggle. I usually wake him up.
There you
Look at
go.
that face. Look at that face.
There you
Doesn't he
go.
say?
There you go.
He's a good dog.
Yeah. So, yeah, I always tell my cat, I like Skittles, it's not time for me to get up. I'm working two jobs because he won't get one.
Yeah, this one won't work. He won't even help with the laundry.
Oh boy. Well, well, well. What are we gonna do? Well, Ivan, it was wonderful having you come on here today. You know,
Thank
you
you.
were
Likewise.
recommended highly by Tommy Kovac, and I had fun rewatching Get Crazy this morning after work, you know, and reliving all those memories
Mhm.
and yeah, this is a wonderful movie, and I'm glad to say I can always hold that over Alan Arkush. Look what's out on Blu-ray now.
I'm sure he'll never live it down.
I'm never going to live it down, I'll tell you that. But no, I like the film, and so I've had fun time with that, and of course, do they keep you away from water fountains now
I'm sorry, I don't get that.
for Get Crazy? Of course, you infected the water fountain.
Oh, I forgot all about that. You know how long it's been since I've seen that movie? I forgot all
That
about
was
that.
what
That's
put
right.
everybody in a good
I
mood at the
forgot.
end of
Yeah.
that.
Hey, listen, it's been over 40 years since I've seen the movie. But yeah, no, nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I had fun with it. Well, it was wonderful having you come on here
Thanks.
and talk to me today. And I was wondering if before we close off, if you do a plug for my show,
Sure. What do you want me to say?
just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
This is Ivan Roth, and you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Yes, folks, get crazy with Ivan Roth as Electric Larry, or get zombified with him in Night of the Comets and Night of the Creeps and everything else. I'm surprised The Walking Dead hasn't gotten hold of you yet. And Greg Nicotero was just at Frightmare in the Falls. If I had done this interview prior, I would have said, you know what? I know who can play all the zombies.
Well, unfortunately, I'm a little heavier now than I was then.
You could be a heavy zombie.
Have a fat zombie. Yeah, you see them all the time. The fat zombies. Where are the fat zombies? You never see them. Oh,
I don't know. I don't know.
look at this.
But anyway, it was wonderful having you on here today, and you enjoy your so-called cold weather.
Yeah.
It's t-shirt weather for us folks here because it's colder here than in Toronto,
We're
I'll tell you
we're
that.
it's 61. We're wearing gloves.
There you go. Yeah, we have to wear clothes here. Although July and August were pretty hot here, so hey, we're not living in igloos here, despite
Um,
popular belief.
you stay warm.
There, we'll stay
Okay.
warm. I'll snuggle with my kitty.
Okay.
All
See
right,
you.
you have yourself a
Thank
nice
you.
night. You
Thanks so
take
much.
care. God
Bye-bye.
bless. Bye bye.